as to how much money we can get from the Commonwealth Government.
Very glad to hear it. Thank you.
Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Chair. I just have some questions relating to the recent ACT ambulance roster review.
Great. Yes. Chief Officer Dutton.
So, since moving to the 44-hour roster, shifts below minimum crewing rose from an average of 31% to 67%, and nights below minimum jumped to 96%. When do we anticipate that these percentages will return to acceptable levels?
So there's a range of strategies that are in place now, which Chief Officer Dutton can speak to.
Thanks, Minister, and thanks, Ms Morris, for your question. David Dutton, Chief Officer, ACT Ambulance Service. I have read and acknowledged the statement. So in relation to the roster review report that we released earlier this week, that related to the first 12 months of operation of the new 44-hour emergency roster. So that's from April 2024 through to April 2025. In terms of the staffing establishment of ACT Ambulance, which is the predominant driver of the shifts that you refer to, particularly night shifts, there's a couple of key points that I'd like to share with you to hopefully explain that situation. The first is that the new roster has a 10-hour night shift as distinct from two consecutive 14-hour night shifts. That was a key feature of the roster reform and the significant co-design that occurred both with staff and the union. So as the report itself details, direct comparisons shift for shift are difficult in that environment because we're not comparing shifts of equal length. In relation to the station closures that we have experienced and are reflected in that report, the vast majority of those station closures occur in the early hours of the morning, so that's normally from 11 p.m. Through to about 6:30 a.m. When that occurs. In terms of where the staff establishment for the organisation is, at the end of October, we are 20 FTE short, with the vast majority of those being in the emergency operations area. We have just concluded a number of recruitments, so I can step you through further detail if that would be helpful. But on the current projections of the strategic workforce plan, I would anticipate that ACT Ambulance will be at or marginally above our full funded establishment by the end of March 2026.
End of March 2026, okay. So that's quite a significant time period that we would still need to wait.
So, Ms Morris, there's a number of strategies that are in play across the time period and have been across the period of the operation of the roster. What is evident to me, I'm taking up post in May of this year, was the significant amount of continuous effort for recruitment that the organisation has been undertaking. And it's also important to acknowledge, as the report does, that the challenge of attracting and retaining workforce predated the new roster. So whilst the matters to some degree relate and at times conflate, I think it's important to understand that those staffing issues were not necessarily directly caused by the new roster. Nonetheless, I welcomed five qualified paramedics to the organisation at the beginning of this month, and we're just concluding our graduate paramedic intern recruitment for a start in February 2026, which will see a significant number of staff come into the organisation and post-induction move forward to operational rostering.
Okay, thank you. And how is this impacting morale amongst staff?
So morale on any given day is a matter of the people that you speak to. The staff that I have been speaking to continuously since arriving in the organisation, the most common concern that would be raised with me would be the pressure on night shifts and the access to leave. We've taken some time to explain to staff the significant focus that we have put to strategic workforce planning to get on top of the attrition that we have been facing and get ahead, as it were. And so morale is an individual assessment. In terms of the release of the report, I can tell you that I have had a significant amount of feedback in recent days from staff, both directly and indirectly, that are pleased that the state has been recognised and documented, and they are looking forward to the actions and the 13 recommendations that are also detailed in the report.
And Ms Morris, I would also add to that one of the things that I think was really striking about the roster review is that the improvements in staff wellbeing and fatigue management with the new roster. So staff were overwhelmingly supportive of the new roster in place, and it's just a matter of supporting staff to get the FTE numbers up through that roster. So I've met with the union, the TWU, around this as well, and I think it is overwhelmingly positive, the effectiveness of this roster. So it's a good thing for staff.
So you've seen a shift in morale with the implementation of the new roster?
Absolutely, and that's outlined in the roster review. Very clear staff support for this and the benefits that they're seeing with the new roster.
So that's not what's been put to me through from individuals in the force, and I've got a very detailed letter here which is signed off by a burnt out and extremely concerned ACT paramedic. They've just described to me very dire workplace conditions and low morale, and the impact of low staffing numbers on that morale. If we're not expecting to see an increase until March, that's a significant period where we're understaffed and stations are potentially closing, and it seems that morale will continue to decline.
I think the important thing, I appreciate that you've had that correspondence and engagement with that one individual, but that's why the evidence base that the roster review provides us is so important, because that gives a broad organisational view at multiple individuals, organisational level, their views about the impact of the roster. So I think Chief Officer Dutton can speak more to that.
Thanks, Ms Morris. I'd be happy to take offline any level of individual concern that you'd like to share with me. I'm not sure that it's appropriate to ventilate that in a public forum. I would take you to a couple of elements of the report, though, in terms of overwhelmingly positive reaction from staff. It relates to fatigue management, it relates to their wellbeing, and it particularly relates to their confidence and ability to do the job in terms of clinical professional development. So those are significant things that a vast majority of staff, through the report process, through individual response, through focus groups, and through discussion with the report authors, were identified. In response to the issue of the report, I have made that report available to all staff, and I have opened up additional channels of communication, which includes an ability to communicate directly with myself without any level of interference between the author and myself. And I have also opened up an opportunity with an electronic form which individuals can choose to identify themselves or indeed remain anonymous. Now, obviously my ability to respond to an anonymous piece of feedback is more difficult, but I would be happy through the Minister's office to take any further details and consider those.
How many times have stations been forced to close as a result of understaffing since the new roster was implemented?
Ms Morris, I don't have all of those details available with me today. I have the most recent details, if that would assist.
If you could provide what you have with the most recent, and then if you could take on notice as well.
Certainly. Perhaps if I take the question on notice, and then we can provide a comprehensive answer with the data that we have available to us.
Okay, well, could you give me an indication of how frequent it happens?
I can tell you, for example, in the month of October, so the most recent full month, that there were a total of 38 hours of station closures across 6 individual instances or occasions.
Okay, that's pretty extraordinary.
I think I have said a number of times this week and previously that is clearly not the position that we want to be in. That is why the organisation has put a significant amount of effort into our strategic workforce planning to get the roster, to get the resources that we need to provide the support that we need on operational rosters. It's important, I think, to understand that when there are less paramedics at work on a night shift, those paramedics that are at work are, of course, working harder during that period.
It seems to me to put an enormous burden on ambulance paramedic staff. And if I could read what one of them has shared with me, they're concerned that these closures and understaffing will lead to adverse outcomes. And while my first concern is for the members of the community who will suffer, My next immediate concern is for my colleagues, both paramedics on road and the workers in our communication centre, who will experience moral injury every time they can't make it to someone who needs our care because of shortages and a lack of resourcing. So are people in the community missing out on care because we don't have ambulance staff available to attend to them?
No, I don't believe so.
I don't believe so. So, Ms Morris, in your statement there, you referred to multiple adverse outcomes. I'm not aware of multiple adverse outcomes. I would be happy to take any specific information that you might be able to share with me. I think it's a matter of public record that this committee has previously seen and commented on that emergency response times in their territory, whilst they are some of the best in the country comparatively, are above ACT government accountability indicators. And there's clearly a pressure on the organisation at this time. That is well documented in this report, as it has been through our regular annual reports as well in recent years.
And I think ACT ambulance, I'll refer to Chief Officer Dutton, but it's over 65,000 call-outs per year. And this call for service demand has increased year on year since COVID. I think it's 7% increase.
The Minister has a remarkable memory for numbers. 67,425 emergency 000 calls in the last full financial year, and a 7.8% increase. That's consistent with national trends that we're seeing in ambulance services around the country. So 8% per year compounding year on year in demand for service from the community. Not all of that is lights and sirens, life-threatening emergency response. It's important to understand, I think, that there is a significant component of that demand is in the lower acuity workload. And in recent months, I have been out publicly promoting Save 000 for saving lives, because when we take a highly trained paramedic crew and they are occupied with a lower acuity health condition, then they are self-evidently less available for the next life-threatening emergency call that comes in.
And sorry, this can be my last one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. What impact is the understaffing or staffing pressures within ambulance services having on policing, if any, at all?
Thanks, Ms Morris. I think certainly there's strong collaboration between policing and ambulance, particularly between our communication centres, so we understand in real time the pressures that are on both services. So that occurs at the communication centre level, and it also occurs at the operational level, where we may be deploying to incidents, etc. So at the moment, I think it's a matter of prioritisation more than impact, is the way I would describe it, based on the number of calls that ambulance may be responding to, the number of priority calls policing may be responding to at any given time, and how we collaborate between the two agencies to provide that service. So it is quite dynamic in terms of how we do that and how we manage those demands on policing, ambulance at any given point in time.
And fire and rescue, just a plug for them too. They play an important part of this support to community.
Mr. Carrick, I know you have a supplementary. Can I ask a quick supplementary, if that's all right?